Hello, this is Mr. Huff, and I wanted to just make a little video about some notebook thoughts. I've been thinking about this for a little bit and thought I would share. I decided a long time ago that paper is more powerful than digital for the things I would like to capture. So notebooks are much more flexible, and I don't have to reboot them. I don't have to get a device and turn it on and find an app. I can just start going to town right there on paper. So it's very flexible. I did try to use planners in the past. To me, it's too structured, it's too narrow about what you can do. And as I go through the pages, I have a lot of unused content, and a lot of times I want to take a lot of notes, and it doesn't really fit in the pre-designed templates. So planners are off the table. I looked at bullet journaling. It's really, really cool if you like planners but want a little more flexibility. It's great, but they're kind of limited into really you're only keeping track of three different kinds of things: to-dos, events, and notes, and you're putting that against a calendar map and some sort of chronology. So bullet journaling really wasn't working out for me because what I capture is there's a lot more than just those things. So this is the notebook I've been using this year, and here's just a couple of shots of the inside. So I tape things in. I keep up with lots of thoughts here. So here are just a couple of pages of me thinking on paper, and that's really what I want to use a notebook for, is thinking on paper. So here's some criteria I have as I begin, some things that are not working for me. So first of all, email cannot be a to-do list. It's not an effective way for me to get things done. It works for some people, but not for me. And also, I'm finding that the usefulness of sticky notes is very limited, especially when I compare it to the volume of what I need to keep track of. So I end up with this. It's good if you have like just a few things you're keeping up with, but whenever you have high volumes of things you need to do and track, it's coming unglued. I've been using Kanban a little bit with the do and doing and done idea, where you only have a 1 to 3 things in your doing section. However, the scale that I would need, I need it on a wall, not a book, and that's not effective because I can't take the wall with me. So I digested what I have in my actual notebook this year, and it breaks down into these categories. I have the must go category. This is Kanbans and catcher lists of all the stuff I need to do, where I'm repeatedly writing the same things over and over, and sticky notes that are stuck here and there for tracking purposes and capturing extra little pieces of information. So here's some categories. Single use. This includes things like chasing down late work, the weekly planning sketches where I'm just kind of brainstorming ideas for how I want the week to be structured, and then daily urgent checklist of things that have to be done in the morning, materials I need and that sort of thing. This is information I never go back and look at because I just needed it for that very short amount of time. It's like short-term memory, I guess. Active listening. I do better in meetings if I'm taking notes, or if I'm working on planning that involves multiple people. I like to keep notes there so that I can keep the important information that is out of that. And also, again, it helps me listen. Another section is reference, or another kind of content. So how do procedures and data tables and printed things like handouts and diagrams and charts and graphs. And then contact information of people that are important to me that I don't call frequently, but I need to call periodically. So it's good to have that information handy. Then I have a group of content called developing. This is where I work on video content outlines when I'm doing videos like this one. Formula notes and examples where I'm getting ready to teach some mathematics just to make sure it's fresh in my mind so I don't make a mistake as I'm going through the lesson. And then lecture outlines to help me stay on track. Usually these are about a page with a few pictures. So I also have a section of content called ideas. This is reflections about activities, about lessons, about life in general, ideas for lesson design that especially like looking back on things that didn't work very well or thinking about something that worked really well and how can I extend that, goals that I might want to set, planning and thoughts, and then some that's kind of high level planning thoughts, not like the day-to-day stuff, but like a trajectory for a semester kind of thing. Brainstorming, which also includes sketches, observations about whatever, and then my own personal learning. I might stop and take a few notes about some details about how Arduinos work or something like that. Chunk of content is special projects and purchase order thoughts, subject matter expert contacts, and then their content that they have ready to share, and then some grant thoughts. So, how can I get more money? Then we have the very most critical things that I put in my notebook, and these are the action items and tasks and the table of contents, which makes the whole thing work. So, so really, my notebook is more of a workbook than a calendar. So really I need a system to organize my systematic chaos. So some this or that kind of thoughts. So on the single use thing, I am keeping it in the notebook, but would it be better to put that on a legal pad or just a little bulldog tablet where it's just a bunch of like cut pieces of paper? Because it's really just used once and I throw it away. For now, I'm thinking keep it in the notebook. One thing to keep track of. And then do I need to have calendars? Really more useful to me would be like a grading period map with all the little weird days marked out so I can kind of use that for long-term planning. I think that would be much more useful than, what's happening in January. So that gives me, because life kind of falls into that grading period block. And then what about keeping track of actions? Should I demark them with some sort of symbol or put them in a box so they stand out from the rest of the content? Or should I use a checklist? Another thing I notice is I get a great deal of satisfaction from marking out the item when it's done, so probably something more like this, where an action is its own little box and stands out from the rest of the content on the page. And really, if I could just get those in one place, that would help me a lot. Then thinking about a notebook, I thought briefly about what if I had the low value content always on the left page, so that's always where I put my little checklist, and we have a chronology here and that sort of thing, and then my higher value content, my reference information and project information and that sort of thing on the right side. The problem that I see with this is the low value content is probably going to outrun the higher value content, so I think doing some sort of sectioned notebook would be better. And then I thought also about templates. I'm not a real big fan of templates because I don't always have urgent items, and sometimes when I have urgent items, I have more than three. So this is what you'll see a lot of times in a planner. It works great for a lot of people. My big problem is a lot of times these pages are blank or have very little content in them at the end of the day. Another thing is if I were using a template, I would use a common specification where I had like to do always in this quadrant, urgent items in this quadrant, and then notes in this quadrant and appointments in this quadrant, rather than something like this. So I just look at the location and know what it is because it's my notebook. I did see this template and I'm intrigued by this, and I will probably use this, where you have a goal page where you have the goal and then you describe the goal and why it's important, what the purpose is, the start date and the due date, a little progress bar to fill in, and the steps needed to accomplish the goals. So you have a little mini action list. So this needs to be tightly integrated with your daily action tracking, or not daily action tracking, but your critical tasks. So this is what I'm thinking right now. I need three sections. I need low, middle, and high. And the low is going to be single-use stuff, and this is going to be chronological and intentionally very compacted because I only need it at the moment that I'm writing it down. Middle is going to be the reference information, active listening. These are going to be the notes and the idea development and brainstorming kind of activities. And then the high value stuff is going to be actions and projects and goals. I've moved goals from the middle content to the higher value content. So this is the stuff that's most important in the notebook. So it could be laid out like this. This is kind of what I'm thinking. The first 5 to 8 pages will be table of contents. The high value stuff would come first, and I would designate probably about 10 pages. I think I'm going to try this and see how it works for me. The middle content, this is the notes and reflections and reference and that sort of thing. About 20 pages for this section, and then for the low value stuff, this is like your day-to-day log, about 30 pages, because this is what ends up mostly being written. And then whatever comes next would be based on what fills up first. So I would also, at the start of each section, have what it is, have a page that kind of describes what kind of stuff you'll find in here. This is good for the high value and middle value stuff. And then like points of interest on this page. So like a little 2-page layout before you start writing, so you kind of have an idea of what's in that section. And then the key to all of this is thinking before you write. So that's all I have about notebooks. Here's all the tools I use to produce this video. Thanks for watching.